Welcome back to This Week in Sheffield. I'm Adam Husicka and we've got another exciting episode lined up for you today. We'll be looking at Sheffield's festive atmosphere and going through the top sports stories along with much more. Here are today's headlines. Reclaim the Night marches took place across the city centre, demanding safer streets for women and girls. The movement started in 1977 in Leeds, partly as a reaction to the Yorkshire Ripper murders. Christmas markets have brought festive spirit to Sheffield city centre. Fargate, the Peace Gardens and the Moor all have a large selection of stores with crowds of people enjoying the food and drinks. The Sheffield Steel Kings are Sheffield's very own para ice hockey team. They're encouraging more people to get involved in ice hockey among other sports despite their disabilities. Stay tuned for these stories and much more on This Week in Sheffield. And coming up later is a debate about the use of artificial intelligence at university. Now, the Reclaim the Night march began in Leeds in 1977 as part of the women's liberation movement, originally demanding safer streets for women at night. Since the 1990s, however, the focus has expanded to tackling rape and violence against women, issues that remain deeply relevant today. Recently, Sheffield saw Reclaim the Night marches around the city centre, and reporter Felipe Justino explores what safety looks like for women and girls in our city.
It was my 20th birthday and there was a big group of us at Turtle Bay, and then after we decided, some of us, we went out to West Street, so there was like a group of us, there was 3 girls and 2 lads. As soon as the lads left, people must have spiked me, and then the rest of the night I don't remember like at all. I walked home and some people had to help me get in my bed, and I woke up the next morning and then I realised, like, I looked at my wrist and I had like a really like small dot and it was like all bruised. We went to the uni, they have a health service to try and get some help, and then they sent us to the hospital basically. And then we found out I did have like a record of like loads of different drugs that I cannot remember in my system that took like a month to leave. And like the mental health aspect of it, like the drugs leaving my system, I just had like a headache for like 2 weeks, like I felt dizzy all the time, and the bruise on my arm, like it just kept getting worse. And overall, probably like one of the most overwhelming experiences I had.
Eleanor, who got spiked in her first year at university, is just one of the many people in the UK who get spiked every year. DrinkAware released a survey just last week stating that more than 1 million people in the UK could be having their drinks spiked, but only 10% of those incidents are being reported. It was also found that women made up 74% of the victims of all spiking offences.
Currently, spiking is covered by the Sexual Offences Act and the Offences Against the Persons Act, and it is not recognised as an offence of its own. However, Prime Minister Keir Starmer has pledged to introduce a new law that will target specific cases of spiking. The government has also planned to halve the crime rate against women and girls over the next 10 years.
On the 25th of November, Hallam's Student Union organised a Reclaim the Night march to raise awareness for the growing gender-based violence.
So we're doing this to kick off our 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence campaign. So we're working to kind of try and make sure that women don't feel alone, to make sure they've got a voice, just to try and make sure that people feel that they can have that voice and try and do something to make themselves feel safer.
No excuse for violent men!
There's also a stigma, unfortunately, in the security industry where they do treat, especially because it's a male-dominated industry, of how they are treating people of certain communities a certain way. And it's getting rid of that stigma and being like, everyone's human, everyone should be treated fairly.
We're looking into like spiking, something like that soon as well. We're looking into collaborating with possible businesses to get that sort of sorted. I did talk to Students' Union about that, for getting some cup covers or like the bottle stoppers so we can give it out at our venues.
Reclaim the Night is a popular movement which started in Leeds in 1977 after the growing danger to women after dark. Felipe Justino, This Week in Sheffield.
As we enter December, we can really start to feel the Christmas atmosphere in Sheffield. The popular markets opened just a few weeks ago and are already drawing huge crowds from across South Yorkshire. Spread across Fargate, the Peace Gardens and all the way down the Moor, visitors have a wide array of stalls to choose from. They offer treats like Yorkshire pudding wraps, mulled wine and gifts of all kinds for your friends and family. There are over 60 log cabins this year, with more than 80% based locally.
It's been a good couple of weeks. We've had some slower days and some more busy days, and it's quite weather dependent, but today's been a really good day and one of our best days so far. We've got like the lights up now, which is great, and just meeting all the other stall holders as well has been amazing. It's a really good Christmas market destination, I think. It's quite varied and it's a little bit more spaced out as well, so you get a little bit of a break there, and yeah, there's lots of different stalls to go and see and lots of stalls to eat at as well.
Hillsborough Park has seen an addition of 11 new lime trees which were funded by the Tramlines Trust. The trees were planted by children from Hillsborough Primary School, which gave them a chance to get out of the classroom while learning about nature. The popular music festival organisers have donated over £32,000 to local community projects over the past year, showing their commitment to supporting initiatives across South Yorkshire. The next Tramlines Festival is set to return to Hillsborough Park in July 2025. The Sheffield Steel Kings are a para-ice hockey club at Ice Sheffield, empowering individuals with disabilities to embrace sport once again. Part of a wider adaptive sports movement, they challenge the 47% of disabled people who, according to Sport England, feel sport isn't for them. Zain Durrani went down to Ice Sheffield to speak with the Steel Kings and see how it all works.
The Steel Kings kind of was formed in 2014. It was started basically after a few kind of trial sessions kind of earlier in that year. It was basically to kind of gauge whether, you know, sledge hockey, as it was called back then, would be feasible in the city. There was enough interest in those early days where we kind of were able to kind of make it work. We got kind of a committee formed, constitution was signed, and we kind of went from there really. From that point where we started with kind of very little, we've now kind of grown into one of the biggest para-ice hockey teams, not just in this country but in the world. We're very active on social media. We really try to sort of spread the word of the sport, and just try and make it bigger and better for everybody.
As soon as you make that turn.
Obviously, when I'd had the amputation, I thought my days of doing sport were done and over. But then obviously when I found that there was things that, para ice hockey, you've got wheelchair basketball, there's so many sports out there that you can actually do. There's something for everybody.
When new people come in, they just get invited into the Steel Kings family, and when they're part of that family, then all of a sudden, they can kind of mix and integrate with people, and they suddenly have a new circle of friends because nobody's judging them here. We just get on the ice, and as long as you're prepared to kind of play the sport and battle for each other, then that's normally the best way to kind of form those bonds. So
very, very lucky here in Sheffield that we've got Jake as the coach, who actually is sort of setting the example really for other teams in the league to get awareness, social media, things like that, and really get the sponsorship coming in for the team.
And now here's Arco Dutta with the top stories from sport.
The men's football team faced off against University of Leeds in an action-packed match at Norton Sports Park, with Sheffield claiming their first win of the season. The game ended 3-0 to the boys in black and yellow due to attacker Ben Hoggard's brilliant performance. He broke the deadlock in the 18th minute, serving up the ball to Alex Wheel on a play, and later went on to score 2 absolute worldies. The 3 points secured on the day takes Uni of Sheffield to 4th on the table, as they hope to carry on this momentum until they take on first place Sheffield Hallam at varsity. In netball, the women's ones took on Leeds Beckett in a tough, high-energy match at the Cannon Medical Arena. 48-39 to Sheffield was the final score, and wing defender Jenna was named opposition's player of the match. The girls had to withstand the heat from Leeds Beckett, who were fresh off a defeat and were looking to bounce back, leading to a nail-biting contest. Sheffield comfortably won the first quarter but lost in the second, with the third quarter being a fairly even battle between both sides, as Leeds went on to win the final quarter. Now in swimming, the university swim team clinched their first swimming league match win against Keele University at Ponds Forge. Every single race in the 50 and 100 metres events, which includes a medley and freestyle relay, as well as a 100-metre individual medley, was won by Sheffield swimmers. Standout swims from Caitlin Tang and Blen Caton earned them women and man of the match titles respectively. This particular round held a lot of importance to Sheffield, as they had lost rounds 1 and 2 and knew that they had to bounce back. And they hope to continue this form going into phase 2 of the BUSL this week at Manchester Met University.
And as always, stay in touch and stay up to date on our social media and on Sport Sheffield for all of the top sport stories. Thanks, Arco.
Thanks for having me.
Now here on This Week in Sheffield, we're always looking for new things to include in the programme. So I'm very pleased to announce that we will be starting a weather segment presented by Thea Burgess. Hi, Thea.
Hi, Adam. Thank you for having me. So, on Tuesday, we've got a high temperature of 6 and the lowest being 3, and no signs of rain, thankfully. It's going to be a still day too, with light winds peaking at 4 miles an hour. Wednesday will be a bit warmer, the temperature remains pretty steady, and the highest temperature being 9 degrees and the lowest being 8. There are sunny intervals and another relatively still evening, with light winds reaching 7 miles an hour in the evening. Thursday is getting even warmer with a peak of 13 degrees. However, this will drop to a low point of 6 degrees. There will also be some light rain and a breeze reaching 13 miles an hour. Friday we've got sun and the temperature ranges from 9 degrees to 3 degrees. Also a breeze, 9 miles an hour this time. Saturday we've got rain and that wind is picking up to 13 miles an hour again in the late morning. Sunday we've got a high of 6 and a low of 4. No rain though, and just a gentle breeze reaching 9 miles an hour. There's also hope for a bit of sunshine in the late morning. And finally Monday, temperatures will reach 7 degrees and it will drop down to 3 degrees. Winds will stay light at around 9 miles an hour, but we will have some rain throughout the day, so don't forget your umbrellas. And that's all for this upcoming week. Thank you so much.
Next up, it's time for our debate segment where we dive into the issues that matter most to students and the Sheffield community. Today's topic is one that's increasingly shaping the way we live, work and study. Now, this introduction was actually written by AI, which is what we'll be discussing today. I'm joined by two members of Sheffield Debate Society, Sam Allen, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And Will Thoben.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, no worries at all. So, AI is obviously a huge topic at university, and what some people don't realise is that it was only about 2 years ago around this time that ChatGPT first came out, and so it's really not been around for that long. No. So briefly, just to start off, Will, what do you think are the main benefits of AI at uni?
So I think kind of the main benefits of AI is sort of like, first of all, it has a wide use of applications. That we have language learning models like ChatGPT, but there's also other uses like Notebook LM, which is kind of, you can input a script and then you have an audio transcript of these two AIs debating. And I think kind of what that really does is it doesn't kind of push education away. It's not saying, oh, well, students aren't learning anymore, they can kind of just write their assignments off. No, instead what I believe this does is that it actually enhances that learning. Think about students who might have a sort of learning impairment, dyslexia for example, is that reading through tons and tons of articles and scripts, like that's difficult for someone, maybe even someone with ADHD, it's that they can't sit down and do that. But instead what we can do is AI can kind of condense that, it can show you the main points and it can kind of sort of bring students together. And also is that it simplifies the process, is that we have a lot on our plate, students more than ever now, we have all these external pressures, and sort of if AI can simplify that and maybe, let's say with lecturers for example, is that lecturers aren't always available to us, and we might not understand the concept, and rather than simply saying, okay, I'll wait until tomorrow, oh, I'm not going to get a response tomorrow, is that we can actually ask an AI who can cater sort of the way in which we understand. We can ask it those questions immediately and get a response back. I think that's a really amazing tool to use, and it's a huge benefit to students.
And Sam, how would you respond to that? What do you think are the most kind of obvious drawbacks to AI at uni?
Yeah, well, I think that while a lot of people would say that if AI is something that's here to stay, then we should be allowed to use it in education. But I'd say that the main utility of university is not getting really good at writing essays. It's building these core skills that you've gained from writing essays, from having to manage lots of different work, from having to adapt to different lecture styles. It means that you're building these analytical skills, building these time management skills, which are very, very important. And so when a student has a lot on their plate, it's likely that they'll default to using generative AI for writing essays. And in university, if you get caught using generative AI writing an essay, the punishment is not that great. You may have some disciplinary action, but overall it's not that bad. And so where a lot of students already have kind of left home and they're kind of juggling kind of this new independence they found, I think it's a real risk that you see students not building these skills, which is the main gift that university gives to students.
Well, do you think that the university should officially implement AI in some ways?
I actually completely agree with that, yes. I think that they should do, is that the university right now is that they say that they take a positive approach to AI, but positive doesn't do enough. Instead, what the university should be doing is a proactive approach, is that if we leave AI unregulated, is then how then students can navigate that differently. Some students might utilize it to its full capacity, you know, to help engage in that content. But as Sam pointed out, is that some of them will simply default on it, and that they'll simply just use it to write all their assignments. And I think kind of the university has almost an obligation really to protect their students from that, to show them sort of the way in which it should be used, because AI is here to stay. You know, there's like, it has, I believe, the same societal impacts as the internet. You know, we couldn't imagine a world without the internet, and we're kind of now seeing that with AIs. AI is pretty much in everything. Even when you type in on Google, the first thing you get is a recommendation from AI. So AI is here to stay, and I think the university really, rather than trying to dismiss AI and say, oh no, you shouldn't use it, is that they should say, well actually here's an ethical way to use AI, here's how to implement it to ensure that you're retaining those soft skills that Sam rightfully mentioned, you know, is to be able to critically think, but also to ensure that you can enhance and sort of encourage more inclusivity with students who might not be, who might not benefit as much from the standard way that we teach.
Sam, obviously university is a place of innovation and pioneering for a lot of technology, including AI. Do you not think it's the right place for AI to be used and developed?
Yeah, I would say that like doing in a university environment, research around the applications of AI is very important. But for students who are, as I've already discussed, they're building all these skills, but I think additionally, AI can be very, very inaccurate. For example, a student may, it's very good at convincing you that it is a human, right? It sounds incredibly human. It's more professional than you could probably ever write. And so it's very, very good at convincing you that this is an accurate piece of information. So you may write an essay or like ask like ChatGPT to write you an essay, and it will actually reference sources that don't exist, right? Which is very, very bad, because then you got in your head that this is the truth and that this is what is the case, and like it's very, very good at convincing you that that's what's happening, when in reality it's like that's not actually what's happening. So I think that it's very easy for people to fall into that trap. And additionally, like from the point of like an employer who's looking at the value of a university degree, I think that when universities start to, on a wide scale, implement AI, even if universities aren't allowing students to use AI for assignments and this kind of thing, the perception from an employer is that a university degree now is very easy to obtain. It's easy to get a first class and this kind of thing. And I think that's very, very detrimental. Like, you look at companies like Deloitte, like consulting companies, and they still want you to have a decent degree grade and a degree from a decent university, because it means that you've got all these core skills. And I think that AI only degrades this value of your degree and kind of makes it less meaningful. And obviously we're all paying a lot of money to be here, and it is it's an investment that we've made, and so we want to have the value of that retained. Yeah.
Well, do you not think that with AI being used in university, as Sam was saying, do you not think that this could have negative impacts on integrity in academia, and it could potentially devalue trust?
Yeah, no, there definitely is that risk, but I kind of want to bring this point up where it's, why is that risk there to begin with? You know, why is that integrity being, you know, diminished? And I think it's kind of because the way in which we are assessed right now is an old school method. It's outdated. Is that if we have a new technology, is that should the university not change the way in which it's, you know, assessing the ability of a student? Is that, as Sam brought up with the soft skills, that's what employers look for, but 99% of us aren't going to be writing essays day in, day out at our job. That's not what they do. Is that instead there's core skills and the soft skills that are really important to employers are those human quality skills. Is that being able to debate, obviously we have a preference towards that, but being able to do group projects and being able to collaborate with other people. And I think kind of what AI brings up is that maybe we need to start shifting away so that we're not diminishing academic integrity, but instead that the university simply alters the way in which it assesses those students and says, well, actually, these are now core skills, so we can utilize AI to help improve us, but then we're making sure that AI remains as a complementer, not a substitute to degrees. So therefore, we can retain AI's benefits, but not diminish sort of those values.
Sam, how would you respond to this?
I think that while kind of communication skills and being a confident person generally will help you a lot in the world, I think that in terms of like the wider benefit of university, it's that you provide individuals with a lot of quantitative skills. You provide them with skills of being able to read really well, being able to kind of, if you're working in an office, being able to kind of, if you're reading contracts, being able to understand kind of the technicalities behind that. And so these kind of traditional academic skills are still incredibly important. And I think that there's no easy way for universities to still test you for these things when AI is allowed to be used. And I think that, like, while yes, people skills are very useful, then why don't you go and do an apprenticeship? The reason we're at university is because it's a very, very strong focus on your personal development and cultivating these strong core skills which will carry you through your working life. And so yeah, so that would be my response to that.
Will, do you not think that with more use of AI, this could undermine students' ability to think independently and to kind of develop their own ideas?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Is that the over-reliance in AI? I mean, it's still an emerging, discussion, and research on it is still very limited. But we have already seen that potentially that an over-reliance on AI, absolutely, yeah, it does diminish critical and creative thinking, and that is a really dangerous thing.
How do you think that could be kind of worked with, in while still using AI and implementing it in a safe way at university? How do you think we could do that?
Yeah, so kind of like bringing it back to like one of my previous points, it was like, that's why I think that the university has that responsibility to those students, is that, if I said to many students, oh, by the way, this completely, diminishes your creative and critical thinking, is that a lot of them go, oh, actually, I never thought about it that way. It's simply just bringing an awareness to that. It's showing students, actually, this is the benefits of it, and these are kind of the risks towards it, and here's how we're going to guide you, is that giving students a sort of path to follow down, rather than just saying, here's the technology, we don't think you should use it, but we're not going to guide you on how to use it, even if you do. Because the university says, don't use it, but a lot of students do use it in their own personal time. It's accessible, it's easy to use. So I think a university should, rather than sort of being, saying that, oh, it doesn't exist, is that we should simply say, actually, it does exist, we have to acknowledge it, and we have to guide students who do want to use it. I think that's a really important aspect.
Yeah. Sam, how do you think that the university could keep students from over-relying on AI?
Yeah, I think that while, of course, there can be some like useful applications, as Will was talking about, I think that there's a lot of very promising kind of algorithms that are able to identify when large language models are being used, like ChatGPT. I think that, yes, there needs to be some adaptations to the curriculum to mean that it's not so easy to kind of rely on these when you're doing assignments. But yeah, I think that there's a big incentive from like society in general to be able to know when people are using AI, because obviously it isn't completely accurate. And I think so this is probably in future years is what the university will use in order to make sure that students aren't abusing it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now that's all we have time for, but just to wrap up, do either of you have any closing remarks on this topic?
I would say that we're very, very privileged to be given like a few years of our lives where we're allowed to kind of focus on ourselves and focus on kind of building a foundation that when we go into the workforce we will use and can like really, really apply. And that like the nature of AI will change in coming years, and that like building a strong foundation will be useful even if AI means that some tasks are automated in the workplace. And so I really, really truly believe that, yeah, that we should focus on the building of these skills and not focus on the implementation of AI into universities.
Yeah.
Well,
I think I'd kind of say that just like anything in life, is that anything in too large quantities, coffee, even water, what our bodies are made of, is that anything in too great of a quantity is eventually going to result in negative effects. And AI is just the same. Is that I believe that utilizing AI ethically and sort of limiting it, so making sure that we're not relying on it, and that we kind of use it to help us when we need it to kind of offer us guidance, but not to hold our hand walking through university life. As Sam said, is that it's a privilege to be here, and you need to maximize that. And AI is simply a tool that can help you along that way, but it's not going to be, the main way in which you're going to do that. It's simply just a supplement to help you get to where you want to be in life.
Well, thank you both for joining me here today. It's been really nice talking about this topic, and I'm sure that it'll be very interesting to viewers. It's something that's very relevant. Yeah. So thank you both for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Now that brings us to the end of this week's episode of This Week in Sheffield. From exploring the future of AI at university to stories about our community, we hope you've enjoyed what we've brought you today. A big thank you to all our guests and contributors for their insights and hard work. Don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and to share your thoughts on what you've seen today. If you have a story idea or something happening in Sheffield that you think we should cover, we'd love to hear from you. I'm Adam Husicka, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Bye for now.